When you picture a cemetery, what do you see? Probably something quiet, maybe a little spooky, with old headstones and iron gates. But what if I told you that for a long time, cemeteries were actually lively, bustling public parks? The somber, silent graveyard is a surprisingly modern invention. So, how did we go from picnicking among the tombstones to the quiet spaces we know today? Let's dig into the fascinating history of how we say goodbye. The idea of a dedicated cemetery is actually quite young. For most of human history, our ancestors had all sorts of ways to honor the dead. Bodies might be left in sacred caves, placed in trees, or set adrift on rivers. Some cultures practiced cremation, while others even had forms of ritual cannibalism, not out of disrespect, but as a profound way to keep the deceased a part of the community. In fact, the first known intentional burials, around 120,000 years ago, might have been a way to exclude people from the group. But this had an unintended benefit. It protected the body from scavengers and shielded the living from the sight of decay. Over time, this practical act transformed into one of respect. Soon, people began burying their dead with tools, food, or ritual objects, suggesting a belief in an afterlife. As humans shifted from nomadic life to settled communities, our dead settled down with us. The first communal burial grounds emerged about 15,000 years ago in North Africa and West Asia. These became permanent places of memory. Different cultures created their own unique traditions. The Scythians built massive burial mounds called kurgans across the steppes. The Etruscans in Italy created entire cities of the dead, or necropoles, with streets of tombs laid out in a grid. Early Christians in Rome used underground catacombs. Even the word cemetery comes from the Greek for a sleeping place, a gentle term for a final rest. Fast forward to medieval Europe. The local churchyard became the main burial spot. But it wasn't just for the dead. It was the heart of the town, a place for markets, festivals, and even for grazing livestock. There was a belief that grass from a churchyard produced sweeter milk. It was a space where life and death coexisted openly. But then came the 19th century. Industrial cities were booming and becoming incredibly crowded. This public health crisis sparked a revolution in burial. The garden cemetery. Places like Père Lachaise in Paris and Mount Auburn in Massachusetts were designed as beautiful, sprawling landscapes on the city outskirts. They weren't just for burials. They were tourist attractions. People would go there for picnics, leisurely strolls, and to admire the art. For the first time, an individually marked grave wasn't just for the rich and famous. So, what changed? By the late 1800s, cities started building public parks and botanical gardens specifically for recreation. Visitors who once flocked to cemeteries for a day out now had other options. Slowly, cemeteries became the quiet, solemn places we tend to think of today. But the story isn't over. Now, we're at another crossroads. Major cities from London to Hong Kong are literally running out of space for graves. And we're becoming more aware of the environmental cost. Traditional burials use up land, stone, and metal, and embalming fluids can pollute the soil. In response, we're rethinking everything. While cremation is still popular, amazing new alternatives are emerging. Your remains can become part of an artificial reef to help restore marine life. They can be used to nourish a memorial tree, be compressed into a diamond, or even transformed into beautiful glass art. Some people are even choosing to have their ashes launched into space. These new practices are less about a permanent physical place and more about creating a meaningful, sustainable legacy. The cemetery, as we know it, might just be one chapter in our long, evolving story of remembrance. As our values change, so will our rituals, ensuring that the way we remember the dead continues to reflect the way we choose to live. Thanks for watching, and if you found this interesting, be sure to like and subscribe for more.